I don't know when her voice started sounding like memory, soft at the edges, like it was already halfway gone. It was supposed to be just another evening. My friend had gone upstairs to grab something he forgot, and I was left waiting in the kitchen, the kind of kitchen that looked like it belonged in a photograph. Clean, quiet, a little too still. Then she walked in. His sister. Not the kind of woman you forget, not because she tried to stand out, but because everything about her seemed to resist being looked away from. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, or how she hesitated before speaking, as if measuring how much truth a room could hold. She was older, mid-40s maybe, the kind of age where confidence wasn't loud anymore, just earned. "You're still here?" she asked, smiling faintly, leaning against the counter. I nodded. He said 2 minutes. "It's been 20. She laughed, low and quiet. He always was bad with time. That laugh lingered. I remember thinking how it didn't sound like something I deserved to hear twice. The space between us wasn't wide, but it felt heavy, full of all the things either of us should say. Her perfume was faint, like something warm caught in cold air. She was close enough that I could see the small freckle near her collarbone, the one that moved slightly when she breathed. "So," she said, eyes dropping to the mug in her hand, "still chasing music?" That made me pause. "You remember that?" "Of course I do," she said softly. "You used to talk about it like it was oxygen." Her words hit differently, not just because she remembered, but because no one else had. Not in years. I watched her fingers circle the rim of the mug, slow, absent, thoughtful. The motion shouldn't have meant anything. It shouldn't have felt like what it did. "I haven't written in a while," I said finally. She looked up. "That's a shame. You used to have something in your voice when you talked about it." The pause that followed felt longer than it was. Then, almost as if she was talking to herself, she whispered, "Your voice still feels like a promise." It wasn't loud, more like a thought that slipped out before she could take it back. But it stayed there, between us, trembling in the quiet air. I didn't know what to do with that. Part of me wanted to ask what she meant. Another part was terrified she'd answer. She turned away first, brushing a strand of hair from her neck, pretending to fix something on the counter that didn't need fixing. The gesture was small, but it said everything, the kind of deflection that only happens when someone feels too much. The clock ticked. The air felt different. "Do you ever?" I started, but the rest caught in my throat. She looked back at me, her eyes steady now, though something behind them was breaking rhythm. "You shouldn't finish that sentence," she said gently. Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps came from the hall, my friend's voice, casual, unaware. She stepped back, her hand brushing against mine by accident, or maybe not. The touch was brief, but it left an echo. When he walked in, she was already pouring another cup of coffee, calm, composed, like the moment had never happened. But her eyes met mine once more, and held, for just a second too long. That was all it took. The kind of silence that follows you home. The kind that makes you wonder if a promise can start long after it should have ended. The next time I saw her, it was by accident, or maybe I told myself it was. I'd stopped by their house to drop something off. My friend wasn't home. She was. She opened the door halfway, hair tied back loosely, sleeves rolled up, the faint scent of citrus and paper in the air. "He's not here," she said, voice soft but cautious. "He went out an hour ago." "I can wait," I said before thinking. She hesitated, long enough that I almost took it back, then stepped aside. "All right. Just for a bit." The living room was warm this time, light spilling through the blinds in quiet strips across the floor. A book lay open on the couch beside her reading glasses. She moved them aside as I sat, keeping a polite distance that felt heavier than closeness. "You still read the same kind of novels," I said. "Some habits don't change," she replied, then smiled faintly. "Others do." Her tone had that familiar edge, truth tucked inside something casual. I don't know what made me ask. Maybe the stillness. "You used to be married, right?" She blinked. then nodded. Used to be. Years ago. What happened? A small shrug. We stopped speaking the same language. He talked about numbers, I talked about feelings. Eventually, even silence felt crowded. She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes stayed on the window, like she was watching a memory pass by outside. I wanted to say something comforting, something adult enough to matter. Instead, I said, "He must have been an idiot." That made her look at me. Really look. "You shouldn't say that," she said gently. "It makes me want to believe you mean it." I did mean it. Maybe too much. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for the mug beside me. It wasn't deliberate, but neither of us moved right away. The warmth of her skin, the quiet hum of the moment, it felt like the world forgot to keep spinning. When she finally pulled away, she did it slowly, as if the act itself required willpower. "You're too young to look at people that way," she said after a beat. "And what way is that? Like you already know how they'll ruin you." I didn't answer. Maybe because she was right. Maybe because I could already feel the danger in how easily I understood her loneliness. She sighed, pressing her palm against her temple. "People talk, you know. They always have. I don't care what they say." Her eyes softened, tired but alive. "That's because you haven't lived long enough to know how loud they can be." The air thickened again. There was something fragile in her now, not weakness, but the kind of vulnerability that only appears when someone's forgotten they're being watched. When she stood to refill her cup, I followed. She turned slightly, her shoulder brushing against my chest. Neither of us moved. For a second, the world became that single breath we shared, quiet, suspended, full of everything we didn't dare name. Then the kettle clicked off, breaking the spell. She stepped away first, voice softer than before. "You should go before he gets back." I nodded, but neither of us reached for the door. She looked up one last time, eyes tracing my face like she was memorizing a mistake. "Don't come by unannounced again," she said. But her fingers lingered on mine as she handed me my coat, long enough to make sure I would doubt it started raining the next time I saw her. The kind of slow, steady rain that made the world feel smaller, like everything outside had been turned down to a whisper. My friend had invited a few of us over, just a small get-together. She was there, moving between the kitchen and living room, sleeves rolled up, pretending not to notice me, or maybe noticing too much. We hadn't spoken since that last afternoon. But her silence said everything. I tried to focus on the conversation around me, meaningless chatter about work, about people I barely knew. But every time she passed behind me, I could feel the shift in the air. A faint warmth against my back, the soft brush of her arm, the scent of rain and coffee that followed her. When our eyes finally met across the table, she looked away first. Still, the corner of her mouth lifted slightly, not quite a smile, not quite denial. Later, when the others left, I stayed behind to help clean up. She didn't tell me to. She just handed me a towel, quietly, and we worked in near silence. Water ran from the tap. Our shoulders almost touched. The kitchen lights were dim, humming faintly. "You shouldn't still be here," she said after a while. "I know." But I didn't move. Neither did she. When she reached across me to grab a glass, her hand brushed my chest. We both froze. She drew in a breath, shallow, quick, then kept drying dishes like nothing happened. But her movements were slower now, careful, trembling at the edges. "You're playing with something you don't understand," she said softly. "Maybe I do." Her eyes met mine, steady, searching. "You think this is about age? Isn't it?" "No," she whispered. "It's about everything that comes after." The words hung between us. I wanted to say I didn't care about after. That right now was enough. But something in her expression, that quiet ache, stopped me. Then the front door opened. Footsteps. My friend's voice echoing down the hall. We both jumped. She stepped back so quickly the towel slipped from her hand and hit the floor. I bent to pick it up, and when I stood, she was closer than before, inches away. Her hand came up instinctively, as if to steady me, but stopped at my jaw. Her fingers hovered there, trembling. "He can't see us like this," she breathed. "Like what?" I asked, even though I knew. Her thumb brushed the corner of my mouth, barely a touch, then withdrew. The footsteps grew louder. She turned away, pretending to rearrange the counter. My pulse wouldn't slow. When he walked in, her voice was calm, effortless. "You're back early." He laughed, said something about the rain. I couldn't answer him. Because under the noise, under the lights, her hand found mine again, out of sight, hidden against the counter's edge. Just a touch. Just enough. Her grip was soft but certain, like a secret she wasn't ready to let go of. And in that silent, stolen moment, we both knew we were already too far in to turn back. It had been days since that night, and still, I couldn't stop replaying it. The touch of her hand under the counter, the quiet defiance in her eyes. I told myself to stay away. She probably told herself the same. But that's the thing about distance, it doesn't work when you've already memorized someone's silence. I found myself outside her door again, half hoping she wouldn't answer. Half hoping she would. When she opened it, she didn't look surprised, just tired, like she'd been expecting me long before I knocked. "You shouldn't be here," she said, the same way someone says don't breathe too loudly. "I know." Her breath caught, just slightly. "Then why are you?" I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I had too many. The house was dim, one lamp on, rain again outside. She was barefoot, wearing an oversized sweater, sleeves falling past her wrists. Her hair was loose this time, damp at the ends. "I came to return this," I said, holding out the book I'd borrowed. She didn't take it. "You came because you wanted to." That made me look up. Her gaze didn't waver. She stepped closer, closing the space between us in small, deliberate movements, the kind that feel like accidents until they aren't. "You think I don't feel it too?" she said, voice low, trembling somewhere between anger and confession. "Every time you look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you already know what happens next." I swallowed hard. "Maybe I do." Her laugh was breathless, disbelieving. "You shouldn't." But she didn't move away. When I reached up, my hand almost brushed her cheek, almost. I stopped just short, fingers trembling in the air between us. She tilted her head slightly, like she was daring me. "Do you know what people would say?" she whispered. "I don't care." "You should." Her voice cracked at the edge of the word, breaking something in the air. I stepped forward, and she didn't retreat this time. My hand found the side of her neck, the pulse there quick beneath my thumb. Her breath hitched. For a long, unbearable second, either of us moved. The smell of rain. The sound of her heartbeat. The soft hum of the lamp. Her eyes searched mine, not for permission, but for control. "Say something," I breathed. She exhaled, the sound almost a plea. "If you say my name right now, I'll forget every reason I told myself not to." The world shrank to that sentence, to her lips parting, to the warmth of her skin under my hand. Then her phone buzzed. The sound sliced through the moment like light through fog. She closed her eyes, stepped back, whispered, "Don't." "I wasn't going to." I lied. "Yes, you were," she said, her voice shaking, not with fear, with knowing. The phone buzzed again. She turned toward the sound, but before she moved away, she looked over her shoulder and said quietly, "Next time, don't stop." The rain had stopped, but the world still looked washed out, pale sky, wet pavement, the kind of quiet that only comes after a storm has said what it needed to. I hadn't seen her in a week. I told myself that was a good thing. That time would cool whatever was burning between us. But it didn't. It only made it worse. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't planned. I was at a cafe downtown, halfway through a coffee I didn't even like, when she walked in. Alone. Her hair was pulled back this time, glasses on, a book under her arm, calm, composed, familiar. But the moment she saw me, she froze. For a heartbeat, we were strangers again. Then something in her eyes softened, regret, maybe, or recognition. She walked over slowly. You shouldn't keep showing up where I am, she said, though her tone wasn't angry. I didn't know you'd be here. She studied me. Are you sure? The question landed harder than I expected. We sat. The silence between us was fragile but charged. She stirred her drink without drinking it. You know, she said, eyes still on the cup. My brother heard something. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? Last time you were over. The night of the rain. She looked up. Her expression was calm, but her fingers trembled slightly on the spoon. He said he heard voices. Too close. Too familiar. I didn't breathe for a second. What did you say? I told him he was imagining things. And does he believe you? I don't know, she whispered. Do you? The air thickened again, the same way it always did when we were alone. Her voice, her nearness, the way her eyes lingered on my mouth for half a second too long, it was all too much. This is getting dangerous, she said finally. For both of us. Then why are you here? She laughed quietly. Because I keep hoping you'll give me a reason not to be. Something in me broke then, the careful distance, the restraint. I reached across the table, my fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Not immediately. Instead, she turned her hand over, her palm open, trembling just slightly. Her skin was warm. I lied, she said softly. About what? When I told him he imagined it. The words hit like static. So he knows. Maybe. But I don't think that's what scares me. Then what does? Her eyes lifted, steady and unguarded. That you'll stop before I do. For a moment neither of us spoke. The sound of rain starting again filled the silence. Then she stood abruptly, pushing the chair back, trying to compose herself. We can't meet here again. So where? She hesitated at the door, looking back once. Somewhere no one knows my name. When she walked out, I caught my reflection in the cafe window, restless, reckless, already moving toward the storm she just walked into. And for the first time, I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't a promise anymore. It was a choice. The storm found me first. Sheets of rain, the kind that blurred everything into gray, streets, headlights, decisions. I didn't even think about where I was driving until I saw her house come into view, lights on behind half-drawn curtains. I should have kept going. I didn't. When she opened the door, she didn't ask why I was there. She just stepped aside, wordless, like she'd already made peace with what was about to happen. You're soaked, she said finally, closing the door behind me. You keep saying I shouldn't come, I said quietly, but you never stop letting me in. That made her pause. Her hand fell from the doorknob. Maybe I don't know how to. The room was dim, just the lamp from the hallway spilling gold onto her face. Her sweater hung loose at one shoulder, her hair slightly damp, framing her in that way that made her look less like someone older and more like someone real. She moved to hand me a towel, but when I reached for it, my fingers grazed hers, and neither of us pulled back. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You don't know what you're doing. I do, I said. You just don't want me to. She exhaled sharply, eyes searching mine for something steady. This, she began, but her voice faltered. This doesn't end well. I don't care how it ends, I said. I just don't want it to keep almost happening. That was all it took. The air shifted, dense, electric, inevitable. She stepped closer, slow, hesitant. Her fingers brushed the side of my face, pushing a strand of wet hair back from my temple. The touch was light, almost accidental, but her hand lingered, tracing the line of my jaw, pausing near my throat. Her breath trembled. You shouldn't look at me like that. How else am I supposed to? She closed her eyes as if the question hurt. Like I'm someone who still knows better. Her hand slid to my chest, just above my heart. I could feel her pulse matching mine, uneven, frantic, scared. Tell me to stop, I whispered. She opened her eyes then, steady, clear. You know I won't. Our foreheads touched. The world shrank again, to breath, to warmth, to everything we hadn't said. I could feel the words forming in her throat before she spoke them. You make me forget who I'm supposed to be. Her lips brushed the edge of my cheek, not quite a kiss, but close enough to ruin pretending. Then she pulled back, trembling, one hand still against my chest. If we keep going, she said, there's no way back. Then don't stop. She looked at me for a long, endless second, the kind of look that holds both love and regret in the same breath. And when she finally spoke, it wasn't a confession. It was surrender. Then stay. No more pretense. No more waiting. Just the quiet sound of two people finally running out of reasons not to. Morning came quietly, the kind that doesn't rush to announce itself. Soft light filtered through her curtains, cutting across the room in calm lines. I sat at the edge of the couch, the world still humming with the memory of what almost happened, and what finally did. She moved behind me, quiet, thoughtful, wrapping her hands around a cup of coffee. You didn't sleep much, she said softly. I didn't want to, I admitted. A small smile tugged at her lips. You'll regret saying that when the day catches up to you. I shook my head. Not this time. She laughed under her breath, the sound tired but real. For a while neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't the kind that hurt anymore, it felt, lived in. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she sat beside me, the contact simple, grounding. The air between us no longer carried the same nervous charge. It was slower now, honest. I keep thinking about last night, she said quietly. So do I. And I don't regret it. She looked at me for a long moment, the kind that holds years of hesitation and seconds of bravery all at once. You should, she said, but there was no conviction in it. You don't, I said. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to deny it, but she didn't. Instead, she sighed and leaned back against the couch. I've spent half my life worrying about what people would say, she murmured. And somehow, you show up and make me forget why I cared. Maybe it's not forgetting, I said. Maybe it's remembering something different. She turned toward me, studying my face, not searching for reassurance, but for truth. You really think this can work? I think it already is, I said, reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away. Her fingers intertwined with mine slowly, deliberately, the kind of gesture that meant more than any confession. We stayed like that for a long time, two people who had run out of things to hide behind. The sound of rain still echoed faintly outside, softer now, like the world had exhaled with us. When she leaned her head against my shoulder, I felt the last of the distance dissolve. No grand declarations. No cinematic ending. Just warmth, skin, breath, and quiet understanding. Her voice came out low, almost like a secret. You make the world feel less rehearsed. I smiled, brushing my thumb over her knuckles. You make it feel real. She looked up then, and for the first time, there was no hesitation. Just a kiss, soft, certain, unhurried. The kind that doesn't ask for permission because it's already been given. When we finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine and whispered, You were right. Some promises don't end. They just change shape. The rain stopped. The light warmed. And for the first time, either of us looked away.